Are you aware of how very important your words are? How important your thoughts are and how important your words are? Very important. Now, words, we use them all the time, and we babble away, seldom thinking of anything. We don't even know what we're saying half the time, or how we're saying things. And we pay little attention to the selection of our words. You know, as children, we were taught grammar. We were taught to select words according to the rules of grammar. However, I always found that the rules of grammar continuously changed. And what was proper at one time is proper at another time, or vice versa. And sometimes what is slang at one time becomes common usage later on. But what grammar does not take into consideration is the meaning of the word and how it affects our lives. How do the words affect our lives? See, I was never taught at school that my choice of words would have anything to do with what I would experience in life. See, nobody taught me that my thoughts were creative, that my thoughts could literally shape my life. Nobody taught me that what I gave out would return to me, whatever I was giving to other people. See, the golden rule, remember, was never meant to cause guilt. It was to show us a very basic law of life. What you give out comes back to you. Nobody ever taught me that I was worth loving. Nobody ever taught me that I deserved good. And nobody taught me that life was here to support me. Now, as a child, I remember we would often call each other cruel and hurtful names and try to belittle each other. But why wouldn't we? Look at where we learned them. Look where we learned such behavior. Many of us were told repeatedly by our parents that we were stupid and dumb and ugly, a nuisance, not good enough. Sometimes we were told they wished that we had never been born, etc. And we cringed when we heard these words, but we didn't realize how deep-seated that pain would become. Nor did we realize that we were good children, and being good children, we too would pick up the same habit of calling ourselves the same things and treating ourselves in the same way. Too often we have accepted early messages of don't exist, or conditional don't exist. Sometimes like, eat your spinach, clean your room, or make your bed, and then we'll love you. And you get the idea that you're acceptable if you do certain things. But that acceptance is always according to something else, and it has nothing to do with deep inner self-worth. You get the idea that you can exist only if you do these things, and you don't have permission to exist otherwise. These early messages contribute to what I call self-talk, the way we talk to ourselves. And the way we talk to ourselves is really important because it becomes the basis of our spoken word. It sets up the mental atmosphere that we operate in and that attracts to us experiences. If we belittle ourselves, life is going to mean very little to us. And if we love and appreciate ourselves, then life can be a wonderful, wonderful present. It's really up to us. If our life is unhappy or we're unfulfilled, it's very easy to just blame our parents or them, the famous them, and say it's all their fault. But if we do that, we stay stuck in our problems. These words will not bring us freedom. If we do that, how are we going to find our power? Remember, our power is in our words. Our power comes from taking responsibility for our lives. I know it sounds scary to be responsible for our lives, but we really are, whether we accept that or not, because the thoughts we think and the words we speak are constantly creating our future. Our beliefs shape our life. So we need to take responsibility for our lives in the here and now. And if you really want to be responsible for your life, then you've got to be responsible for your mouth. The things we say are extensions of our thoughts. Now, what is the first thing that you say to yourself in the morning when you wake up? And the second thing, and the third thing. Most people say more or less the same thing all the time in the morning. How does that start your day? Is that a positive way to start your day? Or is it grumbling and complaining? Because if you grumble and complain and moan, then that's the sort of day you're going to have. You're setting yourself up for it. What's the last thought you think at night before you go to bed? See, you're shaping your future. And are they power thoughts or are they poverty thoughts? Remember, poverty is not just the lack of money. It can be the lack of anything in your life, any part of your life that is not flowing freely. So your normal way of thinking, are you really into poverty thoughts or are you into power thoughts? I remember when I first heard that I could change my life if I was willing to change my thinking. And that was quite a revolutionary idea. This was in New York City when I first discovered the Church of Religious Science, Science of Mind. They were the very first people that told me that. And even though I didn't understand what they meant, it sort of rang a bell. It touched what I call the inner ding within me. You know, that place of intuition? I've learned to follow that because when that ding goes yes, even if it sounds very crazy, I know that it's right for me. So this idea was right for me. It struck a chord in me. Something said, yes, they're right. And then I began the adventure of learning how to change my thinking. You know, you get the idea and you say yes, and then you get to go through the hows. Well, I read a lot of books, I took a lot of classes, and I explored everything I could. And I really delved into Science of Mind at the time, because that was an avenue that was open for me, and I found it really wonderful. And at first it was sort of easy, you know, and I grasped a few concepts, and I started to think and talk a little bit differently. And I no longer was complaining quite so much. I was a great complainer, and I was great into self-pity in those days. That was one of my things that I just loved. I didn't know that all it was doing was creating more experiences for me to pity myself over. But then I didn't know in those days. Remember, no matter where you are in life, no matter what you've contributed to creating, no matter what's happening, you're always doing the best you can with the understanding and awareness and knowledge that you have. And when you know more, you'll do it differently. So never, ever, please berate yourself for where you were, or even where you are. You know, say to yourself, you're doing the best you can. But, you know, we're in a pickle now, and we want to get out of it. So let's find out what's the best way to do it. Because if all you do is tell yourself that you're stupid, then you stay stuck. You need loving support if you want to make changes. I started to watch some of what I said. And I became aware of my self-criticism, and I tried to stop it. And I began to babble affirmations without quite knowing what they meant. And a few small changes began to take place, and I started doing it with the easy ones. Of course, I got the green lights in the parking places, and boy, did I think I was hot stuff. Oh, wow. So what did this experience teach me personally? That I really had the power to change my life if I was willing to change my thinking. And as I worked with people, I really began to listen to what they said. I really began to hear the words, not just get the general drift. And after 10 minutes with a new client, I could tell exactly why they had a problem. Because I could hear the words they were speaking, I could see how they were talking, and I knew that was contributing to their problem. And if they were talking and thinking that way, what was their self-talk like? It must be more and more of the same negative programming. Poverty thinking, as I call it. And I really understood the saying that the subconscious mind has no sense of humor. This is important for us to know, because you cannot make a joke about yourself and just think, oh, well, it doesn't mean anything. If it's a put-down joke, your subconscious mind accepts it as true. Your subconscious mind, or the universe, however you want to call it, accepts everything you say as truth for you. We have been given this infinite power of choice, And the universe backs up everything. And if you want to believe that you're a failure and nobody loves you and that you'll never amount to anything and life is difficult and you'll never have what you want, the universe loves you enough to give you what you declare. You have unlimited choice. And if you choose these poverty concepts and beliefs, then it's assumed that that's what you want and that's what you'll get. And will continue to get until you're willing to change your thoughts and make other choices. We're never stuck because we can always think another thought. Billions and billions of thoughts to choose from. I remember when I used to work with clients privately, I would hear them arguing so much for their limitations. They would always want me to know that they were stuck because of this or this or this or whatever. But you know, if we believe that we're stuck, if we accept that we're stuck, then we are stuck. We get to be stuck because our belief is being fulfilled. You could notice with other people what they say and how they say it. And see if you can begin to connect what they say with what they're experiencing in their life. You know, many people live their lives in shoulds. Should is a word that my ear is very attuned to. It bounces, it's almost like a bell goes off every time I hear it. And often I will hear people that will use 12 shoulds in a paragraph. And then they wonder why their life is so rigid, why they can't move, why they don't live in a life of freedom. But they're into a lot of control, and they're either making themselves wrong or someone else. And you know, the way we say things and how we say them can be as simple as getting up in the morning and looking outside and seeing the rain and saying, it's a lousy day or it's a wet day. It's a totally different approach, and yet the rain is still there. The rain isn't going to make it any different. It's how you approach it. So notice how happy, joyous people usually have very nice lives. And notice how lonely, unhappy, poor, ill people often talk. How do they have a tendency to talk? What words do they use? And what have they accepted as the truth for themselves? How do they describe themselves? How do they describe their work, their lives, their relationships? What do they look forward to? What have they accepted as truth for them? And please don't run around telling perfect strangers that they're ruining their lives. And don't do it with your friends or family either, because it's not going to be appreciated. But use this information to begin to make connections that you can apply to yourself, because it's your life you want to change. Are you willing to change your life by changing your thinking? Because even on the smallest level, if you change your thinking and the way you talk, your experiences are going to change. Are you willing to change your self-talk into positive affirmations? Now remember, an affirmation is really anything we say or think. A lot of what we normally say and think is quite negative, and it doesn't create good experiences for ourselves. We have to retrain our thinking and speaking into positive patterns if we're going to get good results. When we talk about doing affirmations, we really mean to make a positive statement about something we want to eliminate from our life or something we want to create in our lives. And too often we say things like, I don't want this in my life anymore. But that doesn't give us a clear picture. We don't state clearly what we do want. You know, to say, I don't want to be sick anymore doesn't give your subconscious mind a clear picture of the health you'd really like. You've got to realize that your spoken word is very, very powerful. If you say, I hate this job, it doesn't give you a wonderful new job. Even if you get a new job, you'll probably hate it soon because that's what you're saying about it. So you need to clearly declare your desires in a very positive way. Think for a moment, what is it you really want right now? What is it you want today in your life? And then say to yourself, I accept for myself whatever that is. Now, do you really believe you really deserve to have it? Or what thoughts inside of you would you have to change in order to deserve it? If you really believe on some level that you're not good enough, or that life never works for you, or everybody else gets but not you, then you're not going to be able to get what you want. See, what would be the first thought that you would need to think to begin to create this new thing? What would be the building block, the foundation that you would stand on? What would be the sort of thing you would need to know for yourself, to believe, to accept? Well, a good one would be, I love myself, I am worthy, I deserve, I am allowed to be fulfilled. Things that are positive, things that you can believe at the very basis of what you're saying, so that you can build on that. And then do your affirmations on top of that to create what you want. If you really believe that your thoughts create your world, you're going to be very careful what you think and what you say, and you're going to shape your thoughts to create what you want. And remember also, though, that when you first say an affirmation, it may not seem to be true. Because remember, affirmations are like planting seeds in the ground. And when you plant a seed in the ground, that's what you have. You don't have a full-grown plant. You have a little seed that has to germinate, which means it breaks its shell. And then the first little roots go down into the soil and get some nourishment. And only at that point does that first little shoot come up. And it's the same thing with affirmations. It takes some time, to go from a seed to a full-grown plant. And it takes some time from that first declaration to the final demonstration. We need to be patient with the growing season. I like to think sometimes of doing treatment work or affirmations. It's like going to the cosmic kitchen. If you go to a restaurant and the waiter or waitress comes and takes your order, and they go into the kitchen, and you don't run in with them to see how it's going to be prepared and when it's going to be prepared and how fast it's going to be out. You sit and you do what you do. You either have a drink or a cup of coffee, or you drink your water or your tea, or you talk to your friend, or you eat your rolls and butter, and you assume that that's going to come out. Well, I think it's the same thing once we begin to do affirmations or treatment work. We've put it into what I like to think of as the cosmic kitchen, and the great chef is working on it. So you go on with your life, and you know that it's being taken care of. And if the issue comes up in your mind, you can say, that's being taken care of. It's on order. It's happening.